Hello everyone, today we are breaking down Season 1, Episode 5, Blood Calls Blood of The Wheel of Time. Remember to like the video, it helps out the channel a lot, and subscribe, and yada yada yada, let's get to it. The first thing we see is some of the fallen from the battle last episode being buried from both sides. Remember, the followers of Logain try to free him. We see the King of GHEALDAN being buried, and we see some of the fallen Aes Sedai and some warders being buried. We see Stepan, a warder, carrying his Aes Sedai Kareen to be buried as well. Kareen was the captain general of the Green Aja. He takes off her ring to bring back to the White Tower. We see what he does with it later on in the episode. We skip ahead 1 month where the Aes Sedai are just outside the White Tower with Logain in custody. This is quite different from the books. In book 1, they don't even make it to the White Tower. The furthest everyone gets is White Bridge, and then they go to the Borderlands. So they are diverging quite a lot from the books, though certain things that happen in book 1, like Rand meeting an Ogier, which we see later on in the episode, happens in White Bridge. In the show, it happens in Tar Valon, which is where the White Tower is. We meet Rand and Mat on the outskirts of Tar Valon. They have been traveling for a month on the road. Mat is acting very strange, snapping at little kids, and he looks sick. Rand believes that Mat could be a channeler or the dragon for that fact. When males touch the One Power, they go mad. We saw this with Logain. You start to hear voices. The reason why Mat is sick and acting strange is that he took the ruby-hilted dagger from Shadar Logoth, and some of that same corruption that was in the city, the Mashadar, the black stuff, was in the blade and now has tainted Mat. Rand makes a comment that the mountain in the background looks familiar. The mountain is called DRAGONMOUNT. It is a volcano that was created during the breaking of the world when the last dragon, Louis Theron Telamon, killed himself. So maybe this is hinting at something, or maybe it just looks familiar. I will let you decide. So Tar Valon is the seat of the Aes Sedai and is the second largest populous city in the Westlands. The city is ruled by the MERRILIN seat, which is the leader of the Aes Sedai. The city is quite the sight for Rand and Mat. They've never been in a city this populated and this big, so they are in a bit of awe. Just another thing that is different in the books, Mat carries the bow and Rand has the sword. In this, Rand carries both for some reason. Mat and Rand get a room at an inn before they go to the White Tower. Rand says it's because he wants to clean up before they go to the White Tower, but it may be that there is still a lack of trust for the Aes Sedai and he's just putting it off. In the books and the show, THOM mentions the inn to the two, but they get the room for free in the books because they use his name. In this, they have to pay. Mat is still having a hard time with the scene at the farm, the whole family being killed. Mat was in the room but seemed possessed by the knife, but there was a fade in the room as well, so it's hard to say who actually slew the family. We meet with Moiraine and Lan again. They're having Nynaeve stay in the warder's quarters for now because it is the only way to keep her safe and keep her away from the other Aes Sedai. Nynaeve showed in the last episode she has great potential with channeling and is extremely powerful. Moiraine wants to keep her away from the other Aes Sedai because they will try to recruit her to their Aja because of how powerful she is. We meet up with Perrin and Egwene. They are still traveling with the Tinkers. The Tinkers, or the Tuathanon, are a nomadic people who live in brightly painted wagons and live by a pacifist philosophy known as the Way of the Leaf. They are just on the outskirts of Tar Valon when the White Cloaks stop them. Valda recognizes Egwene and Perrin from when they stopped them in episode 2. He believes that Egwene could be an Aes Sedai or someone who channels, which means he wants to kill her. To be honest, it seems a little dangerous for the White Cloaks to be so close to the seat of the Aes Sedai. They easily could take them out, but whatever. The Tinkers refuse to give them up, stating how they are one of them, since they traveled together, they ate together, and they shared a fire together. The Tinkers seem to have numbers, but they do not fight, so they can't do much to protect the two. The Tinkers link arms to hopefully slow them down, which kind of works and kind of doesn't. Perrin and Egwene are still captured. We return to Rand, and he is in the library, and he meets Loial, who is an Ogier, which is just another word for ogre. Ogiers are very different to the typical ogres we are used to seeing in pop culture. They are very kind and learnative, they care a lot about nature, and they also live for a very long time. Loial mentions how Rand is an Aielman, which Rand denies because he's from the Two Rivers. He is not an Aielman. He can't be, right? Aielmen can be recognized by their height, their pale eyes, and in the show, their red hair. Aielmen are very skilled warriors, but little else is known about them. Rand and Mat go to see the false dragon Logain being paraded around the city by the Aes Sedai. We see that Logain looks up at Mat and starts laughing as if he knows that Mat can channel. But it turns out it was just a vision. The knife he is carrying is making him go insane. Mat then wants to make a deal with Rand if either of them can channel the one power to kill the other so they don't end up like Logain. Mat is losing his grip on reality, which he recognizes, so he wants to put a plan in place before he goes too far over the edge. Rand says he will do it and asks Mat if he would do the same for him. Mat says yes, but says it half-heartedly. Mat sees the writing on the wall that this is more about him than Rand. We have a scene that shows Steppen talking about his fallen Aes Sedai. This seems to be here for showing how close the Warders and the Aes Sedai are, how being bonded in a lot of ways is like marriage. Steppen brings Kareen's ring and sets it in molten liquid, which destroys it. Very sad and touching. We return to the White Cloaks where they strip Egwene, wash her clean. Perhaps this was done to look for a ring to identify her as an Aes Sedai, or perhaps she stunk. She was traveling with the Tinkers for a month. They tie Egwene to a chair. We see that it seems to be a chair where they had other Aes Sedai where they cut their hands off. They bring Perrin into the room and tie him up as well. Valda once answers. Egwene says she cannot channel, which is true. Valda agrees, knowing Aes Sedai cannot lie. But he believes she can touch the one power. How he knows this, no idea. When they first met Moiraine, she said they were going to White Bridge. Valda sees that was a lie, even though you're allowed to leave a city and go to another one, but whatever. He sees these two close to Tar Valon, the seat of the Aes Sedai, so he just assumes she could touch the one power, which I mean she can, but his deduction isn't exactly great. She pretty much states she knows he can't hurt her if she has done nothing wrong. Valda replies with, "What makes you so sure I'll stay true to my oath?" So we see that Valda enjoys this. He may be a man of the light, but he enjoys killing and the torture. Egwene pretty much tells him to get on with it if he's going to do it, but instead of killing her, he starts cutting Perrin's back up. We see every time he cuts Perrin, his eyes turn yellow. Perrin is a wolf brother, which explains this. This is why the wolves didn't attack him in the previous episodes. A wolf brother is a person who develops a relationship with wolves and some wolf-like characteristics. This ability is very rare and old, older than the one power itself. It is believed to date back to primitive man. Wolf brothers have better eyesight, a better sense of smell, and can communicate with wolves psychically. So we hear a wolf howl every time his eyes change. So he is communicating with the pack we saw following him in the previous episodes. He may not be conscious of it, but the wolves know he is in trouble. After giving Perrin a few cuts, he gives Egwene an ultimatum. Either channel for me and Perrin gets to live and you die, or don't and you live and Perrin dies. Valda knows this is the best way to get Egwene to channel if she can, even if it's cruel. In the next scene, we see Steppen asking Nynaeve for tea to help him sleep. He's still getting over the death of his Aes Sedai. He leaves the door open to her room, however, and Nynaeve takes this opportunity to leave. Liadrin finds her almost immediately, as if she was waiting for her to leave. Nynaeve and her start talking. They mention how the Red Aja don't have warders. Some of this is due to the fact they do not like men, and the Red Aja is tasked with hunting down men who can touch the one power for gentiling, which is to cut a man off from being able to touch the one power. So in a way, it's like castration. Liadrin is pretty much trying to get Nynaeve to wander some more. She keeps mentioning how Nynaeve is trapped in Moiraine's room. The Blue Aja and the Red Aja do not like each other. This is why Liadrin is trying so hard to undermine Moiraine. Nynaeve takes her advice and wanders around the grounds. In the next scene, Loyal, who has passage on the grounds, since he is an Ogier, finds Nynaeve thinking she is Egwene because of her braid, and brings her to Rand and Mat. Rand is ecstatic to see her because you have to remember he thought she was dead, so this is good news. Mat, though, is not doing good. He looks very sick. Mat is also happy to see Nynaeve, but when Nynaeve tries to help him, he snaps at her. Once again, the taint from the blade is causing this, but looks similar to what happens to a man when they touch the one power, so it's kind of hard to know since none of them have experience with male Aes Sedai madness. Rand discusses his theory with Nynaeve about how he thinks Mat can channel. Nynaeve seems to kind of believe it, but she would like actual proof of him being able to channel first. Rand still doesn't know if they can trust the Aes Sedai yet, which is why he hasn't gone to the White Tower yet. He saw what they did to Logain, the false dragon, and he does not want the same fate for Mat. Nynaeve says they don't need the Aes Sedai, they are two rivers folk, they'll figure it out. A pretty naive thing to say. Rand discusses how he hasn't seen Egwene in forever. Nynaeve reassures him that she is fine. She tells a story of when Egwene was little, she had breakbone fever, and how she was able to break the fever and survive it when most who get it die. Just reassuring Rand she is stubborn and unbreakable, she will make it. In the books, this is actually the first time Nynaeve uses the one power. She saves Egwene from the fever, and when you heal somebody with the one power, you kind of sense where they are and if they are alright. But they do not go with that with the show, probably just to show Egwene is strong. We return to Perrin and Egwene. They are still tied up. Egwene is still trying to channel to save Perrin, but she cannot. Perrin says he deserves this and he admits to killing his own wife. Egwene tells him that it was an accident and he will learn that even if it takes his whole life. Then Egwene starts to channel the one power. Valda is cutting up Perrin during this. Every time he screams, we hear the wolves in the background. Valda stops cutting Perrin to look at Egwene, finally getting what he wants, to kill someone who can touch the one power. Egwene tries to hurl a fireball at him, but did nothing. But she was able to burn Perrin's restraints. Perrin gets up growling like a wolf at him. Valda is terrified of him, staring into his now yellow eyes. He doesn't know what he is. Like I said before, wolf brothers are very rare. Throughout the books, there are only 3, so it would make sense he would not know what he is. Valda drops the knife in fear, and Egwene, who must have burnt her restraints as well, stabs him in the back. The two make their escape, and they see the camp of White Cloaks are being attacked by the pack of wolves that Perrin unknowingly signaled for. They meet a wolf who starts barking at the two. Perrin is able to understand him and says he won't hurt us. Egwene doesn't know how he knows that. The wolf runs off and the two make their escape. We return to the White Tower with Moiraine and Liadrin. Liadrin starts talking about the prize, as she puts it, that Moiraine has with Nynaeve. She also states how Moiraine never really is at the tower very often, that Nynaeve will need somebody to mentor her. That's why Liadrin is trying to get close to Nynaeve, to get her to join the Red Aja. Moiraine doesn't seem too worried about it, believing she will join the Yellow Aja, because they are healers and Nynaeve is a wisdom who already likes healing people, so it would make sense. We then meet Steppen and Lan. They talk about Ishamael and the Forsaken. Ishamael is the most powerful of the Forsaken and is the direct authority over all the Dark One's other followers. The Forsaken were channelers who served the side of the Shadow in the War of Power. Each of the Forsaken sold their souls to the Dark One for eternal life. They are also called the Chosen to rule the world forever. It is believed the last dragon imprisoned them with the Dark One. Elena and Moiraine are talking in a room, and she mentions all the secrets Moiraine has. So clearly Moiraine is very secretive and nobody seems to know what she is doing. Elena leaves, then Moiraine looks at this painting. I have no idea what this means, like literally no idea. I've only read the first book, maybe this is from the second or third one. Lan and Strippin start drinking and they talk about Nynaeve. It seems that Nynaeve has fallen for Lan. The two do some more drinking. Lan awakes on the floor. Strippin gave him the tea he got from Nynaeve to help him sleep. We find that Strippin has killed himself, and he has put some thought into this as well since arriving back at the White Tower. They began the funeral for Strippin, and you see that Lan is really broken up about it. You see a different side than we are used to seeing of him. He begins to cry. Moiraine, being bonded with him, feels what the warder is feeling and starts to tear up as well. Once again, showing that being bonded with someone has a real effect on the other person. You can feel what they feel. So what did you guys think of episode 5 of the Wheel of Time? Leave it down in the comments below. And if you want more Wheel of Time content, please subscribe and also like the video. Also check out the Twitter link in the description below. And as always, have an awesome day.